Day 211, on a simple adherence hack. Photograph all meals or snacks prior to eating. Subjects who use food. Diaries lose 3 times as much weight as those who don't. Photographing all that you eat will make you more aware of what you put in your mouth. It will make you pause and think before you cheat because there will be a clear consequence of it, a picture that proves beyond a reasonable doubt that you didn't stick to your resolutions. Such a simple hack can provide tremendous benefits or even be the single thing that will finally make you stick to your diet in the long term. I can attest to the benefits of this approach. When I was on a diet, I used to track my food intake to make sure that I hit my nutritional targets for the day. If I ate something, it had to be noted in the spreadsheet. This made it more difficult to cheat because I could immediately see when and how much I was exceeding my planned caloric intake for the day. This trick doesn't just apply to dieting. You can also use it successfully for other goals. For example, if you want to become an early riser, take a picture of your clock the moment you get out of bed. If you want to become more fit, record a video of your every workout or jot down the exercises you did, the amount of weight that you lifted, the number of reps, sets, and the duration of your session. If you want to save more money, photograph any purchase that isn't a necessity. Day 212, on learning from your illness. When you become ill, regard your illness as your teacher, not as something to be hated. Nothing in life is more important than health, but we fail to understand this fact until we become ill and lose what we've been taking for granted for so long. At first, you deny it. Then you start wondering, why me? Then you start hating it, and the more that negative emotions breed inside you, the more difficult it is to battle against the illness. Many illnesses are preventable, or at least you can greatly reduce your risk for them by adopting healthy habits. Other illnesses can fall upon anyone, making your life miserable without it being your fault. In both cases, setting aside the obvious fact that it would be better not to have it at all, an illness can serve as a teacher. In fact, regarding your illness as a mentor is the only way in which you can effectively cope with it. Denial, hate, regret, or frustration ultimately only work against you. If you're currently dealing with an illness, look at it as an opportunity to review your life, your lifestyle choices, and your priorities. Take advantage of the fact that now you understand on a visceral level how important health is and make those healthy changes you've been postponing for so long. Finally, think of the illness as a challenge to overcome, and if it's chronic and incurable, seek examples from people who live their lives to the fullest despite not being in the best health or physical condition. Nick Vujicic, a motivational speaker who was born without all 4 limbs. Sean Swarner, the first 2-time cancer survivor to climb the 7 highest peaks of the 7 continents. Randy Pausch, a professor given 3 months to life who gave an inspiring lecture entitled The Last Lecture, which went on to become a global phenomenon. Or Jessica Cox, the first pilot without arms. Day 213, on sudden trials. The art of life is more like the wrestler's art than the dancer's, in respect of this, that it should stand ready and firm to meet onsets which are sudden and unexpected. Preparing yourself for possible temptations and avoiding situations in which you're likely to encounter them is a solid strategy, but it won't eliminate one of the most formidable enemies: sudden and unexpected trials. During my Krav Maga workouts, an Israeli self-defense system, my coach often reminds me that during an attack in the street, I'll be unlikely to be prepared for it. I may be carrying shopping bags, coming home after a tiring workout, feeling sick, or have my mind so occupied that I won't notice the threat until it's too late. Consequently, during our workouts, we sometimes imitate such situations so that I can be better prepared during an unexpected attack. Self-discipline is similar to self-defense in this regard. It's one thing to remain self-disciplined when you're mentally prepared or perform a self-defense technique during training, and a completely different thing to face temptations or an enemy when they're most likely to emerge, when you're tired, angry, sick, heartbroken, or depressed. As hard as it is, try to pay even more attention to your self-control when you aren't at your best. It's during those testing times that you can learn the most about your weaknesses, as well as your hidden strengths. To better prepare yourself to handle such negative, unpredictable circumstances, periodically test your character while you're under the weather. For example, while writing these words, I'm pushing myself to complete 2 days' worth of work even though I've been having low spirits the past few days. Even though it's hard, I know that it will serve me well the next time I'll have to deal with a different sudden, unexpected trial. Day 214, on fearing the future. The only thing we know about the future is that it is going to be different. A quick thought-provoking question for today: if you know for a fact that the future will be different, then what's the point of fearing it? When people fear that they will fail or succeed, fear of success is a real thing. Success can change your life in many ways, and not always in the ways you expected, which makes it scary. They're essentially fearing that their lives will be different, but it's a fact anyway. No matter what you do, your life will be different and you'll have to deal with the aftermath of your life changing, no matter if you pursue your goals or not. If that's the case, both fears are unfounded because a change is guaranteed anyway. And not only that, not taking action because you're afraid of the future is a worse choice, because when you pursue your goals, at least you have a certain amount of control over how your future will be different. If you let fear overpower you, your future will still be different, but you won't be able to steer it or know, with at least some accuracy, how it's going to change. For example, if you change your nutritional habits and start exercising more, you can predict with some accuracy that your health will most likely improve, or at least not get worse. Can you predict what kind of health deterioration you will go through if you don't make any changes? What's scarier, the prospect that you'll become a different person through your new positive habits, or the prospect of not knowing if, and if so, what, disease, a health disorder, or another unpleasant thing will hit you? Day 215, on self-determination. The most successful people, the evidence shows, often aren't directly pursuing conventional notions of success. They're working hard and persisting through difficulties because of their internal desire to control their lives, learn about their world, and accomplish something that endures. Take a cue from the most successful people and figure out how to link your goals with the desire to control your life, learn about the world, or accomplish something that endures. How can your desire to build a business play into your need for autonomy, learning, or contribution? Easy. A business will give you financial freedom and let you control your life to the fullest extent. Growing your business will help you discover the parts of you that you've never known existed. And finally, building a successful business will leave a mark on the world. Even if it's a small one, it's still a big accomplishment to build an organization of any kind. What about dieting? How can you link something as mundane as caring for your body to such high desires? It isn't that hard either. Only a healthy person can control their life. A sickness can quickly remind you who's the boss. Self-discovery. Go on a diet, explore how you feel when temptations arise, and you'll get to know a lot about yourself. Accomplish something that endures. Change your body permanently and you'll not only build something that hopefully lasts for a long time, but also discover how powerful a physical change can be for your mental state. Now, think of your own goals and go through the same thought process, which will increase their significance to you and boost your determination. Day 216, on accounting for flexibility in your plans. Another drawback of daily plans is that they lack flexibility. They deprive the person of the chance to make choices along the way, so the person feels locked into a rigid and grinding sequence of tasks. Life rarely goes exactly according to plan, and so the daily plans can be demoralizing as soon as you fall off schedule. With a monthly plan, you can make adjustments. If a delay arises one day, your plan is still intact. I'm a fan of daily routines, writing a specific number of words, sticking to the same number of consumed calories, or learning the same number of words in a foreign language every day. However, at the same time, having experienced on more than a few occasions that life often doesn't go exactly according to the plan and disruptions are bound to happen, I account for some flexibility in my plan. This way, when I mess up one day, it doesn't have to affect my entire progress. For example, whenever I'm tweaking my caloric intake, I try to focus more on what happens during an entire week or month than any specific day. This way, if I mess it up one day by eating too little or too much, it doesn't matter because I can make up for it the next day or a week later. Granted, it carries the risk of making regular exceptions and setting a precedent, so it's important to always plan exactly when you're going to adjust for a day of variance. Recently I set for myself a goal to write 10 daily entries for this book for 10 days so that after the end of this sprint, I will have written entries for 100 days, or almost 30% of the book. If I were to only count it as successful if I stuck to writing 10 entries every day, without allowing myself any kind of flexibility, I'd have failed on the 8th day, which I spent outdoors. However, knowing that such a disruption would happen, I wrote 14 entries the day before my trip and 6 in the early morning before my departure. Thanks to accounting for flexibility, I avoided the demoralizing effect of dropping the ball, and after 10 days, I had also completed my goal of writing 100 entries in total. When setting new routines and goals, allow yourself some flexibility, too. If you have a daily quota, don't immediately count it as a failure if you don't perform it for one day. Work a little more for the next several days and instead of falling off the bandwagon, you'll still achieve your original goal. Day 217, on things not being up to us. Some things are in our control and others not. Living according to the most fundamental principle of Roman Stoicism, acknowledging that some things are up to us and others aren't, and it's of no use to worry or complain about the latter, is an excellent way to strengthen your self-control. At the moment I'm writing this, I'm in the process of launching a new book. Things went bad from the start. I had to wait over 36 hours before my book was published, something that normally takes a few hours. This in itself delayed my entire launch schedule. Then it turned out that because of another error, some early reviewers couldn't post their review. Then I realized I forgot to upload my audiobook, which pushed back its release date. In the meantime, I had other fires to put out related to other aspects of the business. I won't lie, I was frustrated. However, in the end it all proved to be a valuable exercise in self-control. By trying not to get overly frustrated or worry too much about something that I couldn't control, I became slightly better at handling such situations, which are bound to repeat in the future. Whenever you're going through hardships that are beyond your control, look at them as an exercise in reining in your emotions. There's nothing you can do to change the situation, so at least you can learn something from it. Week 32. Day 218, on protein in your diet. Potential beneficial outcomes associated with protein ingestion include the following. 1. Increased satiety. Protein generally increases satiety to a greater extent than carbohydrate or fat and may facilitate a reduction in energy consumption. 2. Increased thermogenesis. Higher protein diets are associated with increased thermogenesis, which also influences satiety and augments energy expenditure. And 3. Maintenance or accretion of fat-free mass. In some individuals, a moderately higher protein diet may provide a stimulatory effect on muscle protein anabolism, favoring the retention of lean muscle mass. Research suggests that one of the simplest ways to improve your adherence to a diet is to increase the amount of protein in it. Protein is a miraculous macronutrient. It's not only the body's important building block, but is also more satiating than carbohydrates or dietary fat. Moreover, when on a diet, consuming higher amounts of protein helps to retain muscle mass. Foods rich in protein include meat, fish, eggs, cheese, milk, yogurt, beans, nuts and seeds. Making sure that your diet is rich in protein will help you lose weight, but also to maintain a healthy weight later on. So if your diet is mostly carbohydrate and fat-rich, make some adjustments to include more protein-rich foods. However, be careful to not increase your overall calorie intake. When looking for potential high-protein foods, make sure that higher content of protein doesn't come with higher amounts of fat. It's a common combination. Day 219, on dropping unnecessary tasks. You can complete a project by dropping it. I understand, there's certain allure in being busy all the time, always having a long list of things to do. And let's not forget, you're the only one who can perform all those tasks, right? However, if you want to become more productive and still have energy for your other goals, when you look at your to-do list, in addition to thinking about when and how to do a certain task, ask yourself if you can drop it. For example, one of my contractors recently pointed out there was a small mistake in one of my old books. I'm not going to lie. At first, I added it to my to-do list. But then, the next day, I realized that the error was so inconsequential that it made no sense to spend time fixing it. I had more pressing things to attend to, and my readers would benefit more from another book of mine released on time than me wasting time fixing a thing nobody had ever noticed before. Look at your to-do list and be honest with yourself. How many tasks are there on your list because you put them there automatically, without even asking yourself if they're important? How about dropping them to make more time for what matters? Day 220, on a lack of visio. And a lot of times when people come to us and they say, hey, I really struggle with self-discipline in this area or that area, what we almost always find is it's not that they struggle as much from a lack of discipline as they do from a lack of vision. The amount of our endurance is directly proportionate to the clarity of our vision. When you're staring at this delicious piece of cake, you might start wondering why you're taking such great pains to avoid it. Unless you have a clear, specific vision that acts as a mental picture reminding you why, it's easy to say, to hell with it. After all, you aren't really sure why you're depriving yourself of such a pleasure, so why continue to do it? I strongly suggest starting each day with a quick mental reminder of your goals. Imagine what you want to accomplish, how it will make you feel, and why it's so important that you want to reach it. On my journey toward building a successful business, I regularly read a document that described, in detail, the future in which my goals are accomplished. It not only made it easier for me to stay productive and keep going despite hardships, but also made the prospect of achieving my goal more vivid and boosted my confidence that I would eventually reach it. Write a few paragraphs that describe your own goals or create a vivid mental image and frequently review it to boost your resolve and enable you to stay away from temptations. Day 221, on anti-models. People focus on role models. It is more effective to find anti-models, people you don't want to resemble when you grow up. A common piece of advice to inspire you to pursue your ideal lifestyle is to find successful people whom you'd like to emulate. However, what sometimes works better than positive motivation is negative motivation. For example, you'll most likely run faster if you're running away from a psychopathic killer than if you're running in a race with monetary prizes. In the same way, you might find more motivation in making a list of traits or describing the kind of a lifestyle you don't want to live, identifying people you don't want to resemble, and then using them as your anti-models. Whenever you find yourself tempted to give up, cheat, or otherwise betray your values, remind yourself that each time you're doing it, you're getting closer to becoming your anti-model. If you've chosen your anti-models well, you'll do whatever you can to avoid their fate, and that's the power of negative motivation. If you don't know any people who can serve as anti-models, imagine your future self as a person who did the opposite of what you want and is now stuck in living the worst kind of a lifestyle that you could ever imagine. Treat the undesirable, future you, as your anti-model. Day 222, on your depleting willpower. Self-control is highest in the morning and steadily deteriorates over the course of the day. Some scientists, like Kelly McGonigal and Roy Baumeister, believe that willpower is a depleting resource. You wake up with a specific amount of willpower and it steadily decreases during the day until, in the evening, you're supposedly no longer in control of your actions. In their research, critics of this theory like Veronica Job and Carol's Dweck pose that whether willpower is a resource or not largely depends on what you think about the issue. If you believe that your self-control is something that you use up during the day, that will be the case. If you believe it's something that is with you whenever and wherever you want it, you won't notice a drop in self-control over the course of the day. Instead of taking sides, I suggest being neutral about it. Even if your willpower is not a depleting resource, it's better to perform your habits in the morning, not because your self-control will run out later on, but because things tend to happen during the day that will capture your attention and possibly make you forget about what you vowed to do in the evening. You might also simply get tired and don't feel in the mood to push yourself once again. At the same time, don't limit yourself by making an excuse that you've run out of self-control. Try to exercise your willpower muscle, whether it's in the morning or in the evening. The moment you can't lift a certain weight or continue running is largely in your head, and you can often push it. Why that wouldn't be the case when it comes to self-control. Day 223, on clear cues and rewards. People who have successfully started new exercise routines show they are more likely to stick with a workout plan if they choose a specific cue, such as running as soon as they get home from work, and a clear reward, such as a beer or an evening of guilt-free television. According to best-selling author Charles Duhigg, a habit consists of a cue, a signal to perform a habit, a routine, action, and a reward for engaging in the habit. This loop, when repeated over and over again, creates an automatic behavior. When creating new habits, make sure that you have clear cues and rewards. This will help you introduce new routines with less resistance. For example, if you want to start running every morning, keep your running shoes by your bed, and before you leave, put your coffee mug on the table in the kitchen so that when you get back, coffee will serve as a reward for a job well done. One thing to be aware of is that your reward can't undo the benefits of the habit. If you want to reward yourself for exercising by eating a giant pizza, you'll be taking one step forward and two steps back each time you engage in such a habit loop. Instead, think of a healthier, less caloric reward, a smoothie, some nuts, a piece of fruit, or something that has nothing to do with eating, such as an hour spent reading a book, watching your favorite TV series, or taking a long bath. Please note that in the beginning a new habit like jogging in the morning can be unpleasant, but with time the action itself can be a reward. A workout can produce a feel-good endorphin rush. Some effective cues include another habit, like engaging in a positive habit after you finish brushing your teeth, a certain place, like getting back home after work and immediately sitting down to work on your side business for an hour, or a certain time, each day at 6 p.m. you spend 15 minutes stretching. Day 224, on juggling 5 balls. Imagine life is a game in which you are juggling 5 balls. The balls are called work, family, health, friends, and integrity. And you're keeping all of them in the air. But one day you finally come to understand that work is a rubber ball. If you drop it, it will bounce back. The other 4 balls are made of glass. If you drop one of these, it will be irrevocably scuffed, nicked, perhaps even shattered. Self-discipline and your long-term goals are important, but throughout all of my books, I periodically emphasize that life isn't only about accomplishment. In fact, your well-being, living with integrity, and the relationships you have with your friends and family matter more than everything else. What's the point of self-improvement if you can't share your successes and failures with others? Is being super rich worth it if you've developed a reputation of a crook? Does it make sense to lose your health just to get a promotion at work? When balancing between different aspects of your life, always prioritize the glass balls over the rubber one. You can always accomplish your goals later, but you can't always restore relationship with your family, revive your friendships, recover your health, or regain trust. Spend 5 minutes today thinking whether you're careful enough when handling the glass balls in your life. How often do you ignore your health or family to focus on work? How can you work on your goals in a more sustainable way that would reduce the risk of losing your health, integrity, or relationships? Week 33. Day 225, on following someone else's plan. Esther asked why people are sad. That's simple, says the old man. They are the prisoners of their personal history. Everyone believes that the main aim in life is to follow a plan. They never ask if that plan is theirs or if it was created by another person. They accumulate experiences, memories, things, other people's ideas, and it is more than they can possibly cope with. And that is why they forget their dreams. I like to say that self-discipline can change a lot in your life, but it won't change much if you're following someone else's dreams. For example, I went to college because my parents wanted me to do it. Graduating from college was, according to them, a necessity to succeed in life. I couldn't care less about formal education, but they did, and since I was young and inexperienced, I obeyed. Despite being a self-disciplined and persistent person, I didn't last even 2 years. I dropped out, tired of constantly forcing myself to follow a plan that was not created by me. The day I decided to drop out was one of the happiest days of my life. It was also the moment when I finally embarked on my own journey, focused on my own goals. If no matter what you're doing, you're finding it immensely difficult to pursue your goals, ask yourself if they're really your own goals. Are you studying because you want to study? Are you a lawyer because it was your own choice? Do you want to make money to buy a house in the suburbs because it's your idea of a perfect life, or is it what society expects you to desire? Don't forget your dreams. Discard any goal or idea that was forced upon you by somebody else that isn't aligned with your values and personality. Get to work on your own plans and then follow them instead. Day 226, on waiting to be saved. No one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path. It's easy to fall victim to the belief that you need to wait for someone or something to save you. You won't start a business unless you find an investor or a mentor. How about starting your business on a shoestring and learning along the way? You won't change your eating habits unless you find the right diet that was designed by a world-famous dietitian. How about eating more vegetables and fruits and eliminating unhealthy foods from your diet, one by one? You won't start exercising unless you find the right coach. How about putting on your sneakers and going for a walk, or dropping to the ground and doing a few push-ups? You won't start a long-term relationship unless the perfect, flawless person appears in your life. How about looking for a potential partner yourself, accepting that nobody is perfect, and committing to the other person as they are, with all of their positive traits and also their flaws? Don't wait to be saved. You yourself must walk your own path. Use the resources offered by other people when you have access to them, but don't use them as crutches. Day 227, on being stuck in the past. People are all over the world telling their one dramatic story and how their life has turned into getting over this one event. Now their lives are more about the past than their future. As a teenager, I was so insecure that I couldn't talk with women. I was bullied. Fortunately, a stronger classmate stood up for me and the bullying quickly ceased, had terrible acne, and needed to take expensive medication to get rid of it, and exuded awkwardness that could earn me the starring role in The Revenge of the Nerds. Yet, I somehow managed to overcome all those debilitations and I turned out okay. One of the keys was not letting my dramatic story define me. Yes, I struggled with all those things and plenty more, but so did many other people, and many of them struggled with issues that make my problems look like a joke. If you're using a past story as an excuse for what your life is like today, ask yourself how this strategy has been serving you. Isn't constantly looking into the past reinforcing the belief that you're a victim? And if so, how does it affect your chances of succeeding in life? Unless you turn the page and look to the future, you'll be forever stuck living in the past, reliving your dramatic story and never changing your identity to create the future you desire. Day 228, on going where your eyes go. In racing, they say that your car goes where your eyes go. The driver who cannot tear his eyes away from the wall as he spins out of control will meet that wall. The driver who looks down the track as he feels his tires break free will regain control of his vehicle. When you face hardships and feel like you're about to crash, heed the advice of racing drivers. Look at where you want your car to go, not at the wall you want to avoid hitting. In practical terms, this means focusing on taking the next step to solve the difficult situation instead of busying your mind with worrying about what will happen if you don't manage to succeed. Doing the latter is not only a waste of energy, it also actively works against you by convincing your brain that the failure is inevitable, thereby making it less likely that you'll avoid it. For example, I was once close to being forced to close my business because I didn't have sufficient money to keep it running. Instead of thinking about closing up shop and worrying about how it would affect my long-term goals, I focused on the next step I could take, doing whatever I could to secure some money to keep the business afloat. Instead of staring at the wall, I looked down the track and managed to avoid hitting the wall. Adopt the same attitude when dealing with problems and setbacks. Obsessing about the imminent failure guarantees it, while holding the steering wheel tightly and looking down the track increases your chances of escaping such a fate. Day 229, on the opportunity in chaos. In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. When everything goes wrong, you might be tempted to think that everything is already lost. You've already made a mistake, you can't go past the obstacles, the negative circumstances got the best of you. There's no denying the fact that chaos doesn't make it easy to think logically. However, if you exert some willpower and force yourself to examine the situation without emotions clouding your judgment, you might discover new opportunities in the middle of chaos. For example, if you're on a diet and somehow one cheat meal turned into a week-long binge, you can conclude that everything is lost and give up. It's the easy choice, but as we've already discussed on many occasions, easy choices are rarely the right ones. The chaos that has ensued in your diet offers opportunities. For example, you can now jot down the thoughts you have when you gorge on unhealthy food after a long period of going without it. What makes you eat it? What's the underlying motive? How can you satisfy your need for junk food without actually eating it? If you've been following a healthy diet for several weeks, you can probably also notice the difference in how you feel after eating crap. Whenever I spend a few days eating less healthily, I have a craving to return to my usual diet. Your mistake can then reinforce your will to part ways with junk food forever. Treat chaos as an opportunity to learn, and you might benefit from it even more than if you had never found yourself in the middle of it. Day 230, on laser focusing on specific aspects. Franklin identified the aspects of his performance that needed to be improved and found a way to stretch himself, the essential core of deliberate practice. Significantly, he did not try to become a better essay writer by sitting down and writing essays. Instead, like a top-ranked athlete or musician, he worked over and over on those specific aspects that needed improvement. Saying that you want to become more self-disciplined is too vague of a resolution. You need to be more specific about what areas of your life you want to improve and specifically how you're going to do it. In what domains or situations are you lacking self-discipline? How does it manifest? What do the people who control their temptations in those situations do? How can you work over and over again on those specific things to improve yourself? If you're not good at exhibiting patience around people who annoy you, that's a specific aspect you can focus on to improve your self-control. If you often overeat on French fries, that's a specific trigger that you can focus on to improve your self-control around food. If you struggle to wake up early, figure out how to specifically boost your self-discipline in the morning when you're still half asleep. This laser focus approach will make you more effective at strengthening your willpower muscle, rather than merely trying to become more disciplined, as it's too difficult to define what that entails. Day 231, on minimizing what you need. A man is rich in proportion to the number of things which he can afford to let alone. Thoreau was a big proponent of simplicity, particularly when it comes to material possessions. We can extend his maxim to living a successful life in general, namely that a human is strong in proportion to the number of things which he or she can let alone. If you can still manage to achieve your goals despite not having the right resources, then ultimately, you'll become a stronger and more capable person than an individual who has never gone without them. Kenyan javelin thrower Julius Yego won the gold medal at the World Championships in Beijing. There would be nothing particularly interesting in this story except that he learned how to perfect his technique without a coach, and instead learned from YouTube videos. Achieving such a feat without all of the resources that world-class javelin throwers usually have demonstrates how capable and determined Yego is as an athlete. Does it mean that you should deliberately reject the resources you have at your disposal? Not really. Look at it more as encouragement that, even if you don't have the best tools available, you can still make it big. In addition to that, practice your mental strength by sometimes deliberately going without something you need. For example, I sometimes climb with a blindfold on. Without being able to see the next handhold or foothold, the sense of touch heightens, and it serves as a valuable exercise in improving precision when climbing. You can apply it in many other areas of your life. Sleep on the bare floor for a few days to discover that you can still get a good night's rest once you get used to it, exercise without any equipment whatsoever, or try to learn a new skill by figuring it out by yourself instead of immediately looking for a coach or teacher. Week 34. Day 232, on going all in I demolished the bridges behind me. Then there is no choice but to move forward. If working on your goals with a safety net makes you lazy and less likely to reach your goals, try the opposite approach, demolish the bridges behind you and go all in. You will either succeed or lose in a big way. Obviously, before making such an extreme decision, take into account all of the risks. If you're the sole breadwinner of your family, quitting your job to work on a business might not be an entirely good idea. However, in many cases you do have an option to cut all escape routes. For example, if you want to start a diet, you can throw away all of the unhealthy food you have in your house, pay in advance for 3 months of a healthy meal delivered to your doorstep, announce to all of your friends and family that you're on a diet, and give your friend a substantial amount of money that he or she can spend as they like if you fall off the wagon. If the only choices you have are a spectacular success or a spectacular failure, it often makes it easier to stick to your resolutions because the consequences of success and failure are balanced. If you have a safety net and failure isn't particularly hurtful, in a moment of doubt the temptation to back out can be too alluring to resist it. Day 233, on obstacles as filters. The brick walls are there for a reason. The brick walls are not there to keep us out. The brick walls are there to give us a chance to show how badly we want something. Because the brick walls are there to stop the people who don't want it badly enough. They're there to stop the other people. If obstacles piss you off, ask yourself how would you enjoy reaching your goals if there were no difficulties and everyone would have been able to achieve their goals without breaking a sweat. How valuable would that success be? How sweet would it feel if you knew that you'd accomplished something that everyone else easily could? Think of setbacks as filters. Each problem reduces the number of people eligible to attain the ultimate prize. Are you going to be one of the also-rans, or are you going to prove how badly you want your goal and stick to your resolutions for however long it takes? Day 234. On forgiving to err is human, to forgive, divine. What is a quote about forgiving doing in a book about self-discipline and success? The answer is simple: holding a grudge is like instant gratification. It gives you a little reward today at the expense of your future. Meanwhile, forgiving requires some sacrifice today, but eventually brings bigger benefits. This means that the act of forgiving can serve as a valuable exercise in improving your self-control, particularly emotional control. Engaging in negative emotions by staying angry at somebody who hurt you can give you some pleasure by satisfying your need for fairness in the world. Expressing your dislike or anger is like punishing the one who erred. However, in the long run, holding a grudge poisons only one person, and that person is you. Choosing to forgive, which doesn't necessarily mean to forget, is therefore an act of freeing yourself from pain. Instead of being stuck in a negative emotional loop, you choose the temporary discomfort of making peace in exchange for the substantial long-term benefits of improved well-being. Day 235, on looking only one day ahead. When I face the desolate impossibility of writing 500 pages, a sick sense of failure falls on me, and I know I can never do it. Then gradually, I write one page and then another. One day's work is all I can permit myself to contemplate. I share John Steinbeck's sentiment every time that I start writing a new book, particularly if it's such a big and difficult project as 365 Days with Self-Discipline. The most effective strategy I've found to help me is precisely the same recommendation as Steinbeck's: I contemplate only one day's work. Today, I need to write 10 more daily entries, and that's all that counts. Each time I catch myself calculating how many entries I have left and how much time it's still going to take, I demoralize myself, thus making it more difficult to keep going, more likely that I'll stumble. While you're standing at the foot of the mountain and looking at its peak, it looks like it's impossible to scale it. But then, if you decide to climb it, step by step and minute by minute, you slowly advance and soon you're looking down, surprised at how high you are. If you're facing a big project, embrace the same attitude. Don't look a year ahead. Instead, focus on what you need to do today to get a little bit closer to your destination. Do it today, and then do it tomorrow, and then the day after tomorrow. Then continue week by week and month by month, until you make the impossible possible. Day 236, on being a normal chap in response to the question, so, Mr. Lamborghini, in short, what type of man are you? A normal chap, a man who likes creating things. A good worker in the morning, and a man who likes enjoying himself in the afternoon. It's easy to put successful people on a pedestal and think that they're so exceptional that you'll never become even half as great as they are. In reality, world-class performers aren't that different from you or me. Mr. Lamborghini, the creator of one of the most desired sports car brands in the world, described himself in simple terms that can apply equally to any other successful person. They like to create things, which comes down to never-ending self-improvement. They're good workers, and just like everybody else, they like enjoying themselves after work. Thinking that successful people live on a different planet can hinder your personal growth. You might assume that their achievements are only within the reach of similar superhumans, but not you. In reality, while there are certain exceptions of people who were born with extraordinary talent, prior to their success, most people didn't differ much from others. If you have a tendency to become starstruck, remember that beyond their successes, they're the same human beings as you or me. They might be exceptional at one thing, but horrible at something else. The only reason why many of them have achieved success might be because of their persistence, and not because of any special abilities or resources that were available to them. Stick to your own resolutions, and with enough dedication, nothing will prevent you from attaining their level of accomplishment. Day 237, on shifting responsibility to others. Many seek to avoid the pain of their problems by saying, "This problem was caused me by other people, or by circumstances beyond my control, and therefore it is up to other people or society to solve this problem for me." I have a friend who's often late. When confronted about his tardiness, he says, "When I was a child, my parents were always late to pick me up at school, so I learned it from them." This way, he conveniently shifts the responsibility for the problem to his parents. It's no longer his lack of self-discipline to leave 10 minutes early, it's his parents who were late decades ago, so now he's late for his appointments, too. You can often notice similar sentiments among people looking for a job. It's not their job to find employment, it's the government that should do something about it, as if the government could create jobs out of thin air. While those people wait for somebody else to fix their problems, other job seekers take additional training, volunteer, or start small businesses, knowing that even if the economic situation in the country is beyond their control, it's within their control to do something that can increase their chances of getting a job. Do you have any problems in your life that you think were caused by other people and therefore you don't accept that it's your responsibility to fix them? What do you think? What are your chances of ever solving them if you deny that it's within your control to do something about them? Day 238, on dividing your life into 10-minute units. You can do so much in 10 minutes time. 10 minutes, once gone, are gone for good. Divide your life into 10-minute units and sacrifice as few of them as possible in meaningless activity. No, there's no need to divide your life into 10-minute units and behave like a robot for the rest of your life. However, Camprad's suggestion can be a valuable exercise in discovering how productive you can be if you develop better control of your schedule. Conduct an experiment. For one day, track every single activity you engage in and how much time you spend on it. Jot down everything, including how much time it takes you to get out of bed, commute, cook, eat, how much time you spend on social media, how much time you spend on each specific task at work, etc. For your electronic life, you can use Rescue Time, which is time management software that shows you how you spend your time on your devices. Just one day of tracking your activity can give you an incredibly valuable insight into how many 10-minute periods are gone, wasted on meaningless activities. As an additional exercise, choose a task, any important task you need to perform, and set a timer for 10 minutes. For the next 10 minutes, act as if a huge meteor were to hit Earth and destroy everything on it if you fail to maintain 100% concentration. Even if you don't finish the task, you'll probably multiply your productivity by a factor of 5 or 10, and that will serve as a powerful reminder that you can push your limits if you're only more diligent about your use of time. Week 35. Day 239, on imagining the process as a litmus test. If we hate doing something, we imagine it as hard. We think of it as broken into many pain-in-the-ass steps. If we love something, it seems easy. We imagine it as one fun step. When setting new goals, do you imagine them as hard, broken down into countless frustrating steps, or is the process clear to you, largely reliant on just one big action you need to take consistently to make your dream come true? The way you imagine how the process will go can serve as a valuable litmus test that indicates whether you're pursuing the right goal, and if so, whether you're pursuing it in the right way. For example, I wanted to improve my flexibility and reached out to a physical therapist to give me some pointers on the best exercises for my particular weaknesses. I received a list with several different stretches I was told to perform at least 2 times a day, not a week. This alone was completely unrealistic. I thought about the program as broken into many pain-in-the-ass steps instead of a fun challenge. At first, I listened to the advice, despite having reservations about it. Just a few days later I started skipping some exercises and soon stopped following the program entirely. I was still interested in reaching the goal of improving my flexibility, but I had to come up with my own, simpler plan that I would consider fun and easier to implement in my everyday life. If you're currently following a plan that feels as inspiring as my original protocol for improving flexibility, perhaps it's time to reconsider how to structure it in a different way so that it will feel more like one fun step rather than a long-term arduous journey. Day 240, on separating yourself from the pain. Elite runners feel pain and discomfort during their hard workouts, but they react differently. Rather than panicking, they have a calm conversation. This is starting to hurt now. It should. I'm running hard. But I am separate from this pain. It is going to be okay. Like meditation, choose how to respond to the stress of a workout. Pain isn't you, and you aren't your pain. Separating yourself from temporary pain is a crucial ability if you want to put yourself in uncomfortable situations for the sake of bigger and better rewards in the future. Whether it's exercise, dieting, work, or virtually anything else requiring effort, pain is sometimes inevitable. Depending on how you react to it, with panic or a calm inner conversation, you'll either let it hinder your progress or you'll defeat it and progress further. For example, when I'm climbing a particularly difficult route, my forearms burn like hell, I can barely breathe, and my grip is so weak that I'm mere milliseconds from falling. Whenever I'm able to do so, I try to disassociate myself from the pain and try to advance my position further, even if I fall right after grabbing the next handhold. This way, I get to train my mental toughness and strengthen my ability to perform despite pain. Whenever you feel temporary pain or discomfort, remind yourself that you can make the pain partly fade into the background when you mentally refuse to associate yourself with it. Obviously, make sure that the pain you feel isn't a sign of an impending injury or that it can lead to an accident.